All right, so I think we're live. Welcome to the post show huddle with your co hosts. I'm Terrell Strayhorn.
J'Quen Johnson.
And we're going to just take a few minutes to do a post show recap of episode 26 with our good friend and colleague, Dr. Phillip Smith from Rutgers University. We're doing this for two purposes. One, we're together. Why not go live and talk about this? But two, moment of transparency. We're also testing out a new technology, and I kind of like it.
Looks good, doesn't it?
So far. Yeah, I mean, we're live on YouTube. The setup looks pretty good. I think the quality of the video looks pretty good. Doesn't look like it's delayed. We've been having a lot of trouble with our other podcast software. We won't say their name, so we're not shaming them publicly. But this looks good, and it provides hopefully an opportunity for people who are following our channel to know, like, hey, we're going live. If you're out there, you're listening to us right now in the moment, feel free to drop something in the chat or use the digital reactions. We appreciate it, but we'll also share this out afterwards. So solid hour of a show talking with Dr. Phillip Smith about basic needs, sense of belonging, and his work at Rutgers. What were your thoughts?
A lot was going through my head as we were talking about. I was excited for this topic because we often share, in communication about basic needs and what it really means. And, from the book, I don't know where the book is, but it's like there are two types of needs.
Yeah.
One is expressed needs. This is something that is known and conscious, and we can say to others exactly what we need. And then there is latent needs. This is unconscious and something that requires a little bit more work on our part to figure out exactly what the student needs. It's something that they have not expressed to us, but we still need it.
Right. Expressed and latent.
Mm-hmm.
So he and his team have well, first of all students have needs, as we always talk about. And their needs are basic and sometimes more complicated or complex. Basic needs are typically referred to as food, housing, clothing, and it can be even more fundamental things like I mentioned in the episode on gas cards.
Yeah.
And sometimes students need, financial aid, counseling, medical attention. He was talking about the kind of programs or services that they offer in their basic needs center, which is medical attention, tax preparation, post office, all sorts of things that students might need assistance with. And so being able to really provide a one-stop shop where students don't have to guess, where do I go? What are the operating hours? Who do I turn to? But I can go to one place probably is really rewarding for them and their success.
What I like the most about, his comments today, he shared that during orientation, they stopped by the basic needs centers to let students know that they have it, right? Rutgers is a pretty big campus.
Yeah.
And there are some things that we do really well in higher education, and we offer all these supports, but sometimes students don't know that it's on campus or offered or for them. So, proactively taking them by the center, sharing, what is offered, how they can support, who's allowed to be in there, what are the operating hours, all those things. Like it's important information for new students to know.
Yeah. I didn't catch the part about orientation. I think I was probably one of those moments where the screen was like stalling and I was trying to make sure that things were posting on social media. But that's great because orientation, it's one thing to provide stuff to students.
Mm-hmm.
But if we provide it and students don't know that we provide it, they don't know how to access it, they don't know where to go.
Yeah.
You may as well not provide it.
Yeah.
There's so many supports on campuses. We've been to lots of campuses where students will say things like, I need tutoring. Where is tutoring? Or, I really know I need, mental health counseling, but I only know where the student health center is. I don't know where I can, and can I get it? And how much does it cost? And what if I can only do it online? I can't do it in person. All of these kinds of questions swell and swirl in their mind. And when you're trying to deal with all those questions, it's hard to feel like you belong.
Right. But there's many things too, like to complicate and make, go on with the conversation, is that there are some students who are legacy students. Those are meaning that the parents went there, or someone in their family went to that institution, and now you're coming on that campus, and they can share their experience. They can share with you exactly how to navigate higher education. There are other students who don't have that privilege. And there are all sorts of looming questions. I think it's our role and our job to figure out, like, who are the students that we serve, and then kind of identify and determine what do they need. And then once we figure that out, you okay?
I don't know what that was climbing on me.
What they need, right? And meeting those needs.
Right.
So for, we said this in one of our writing pieces, is that recently, I believe, is, what works for one campus may not work for the next campus. So it's an iterative process. And, we're going to shout out Dr. Hakeem J. Lucas again, is that what he always says, or what he shares, is that fail fast and fail forward. Through conversation, what that means is, we have to understand and appreciate that we're not going to be perfect, initially. And there are moments where we get it right, immediately, but it's an iterative process. Yeah. We have to put things in place for students. If we identify it and know that there's something that students need, let's get the work done. But also understanding and give some flexibility for us to continue to learn about our students, and kind of reimagining and being flexible in our practices and policies to ensure that students can thrive on our campuses and ultimately walk across stage.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about too, first of all, he said that phrase, and I was literally thinking about it, because he said his colleague reminded him, or said, like, the only way you can eat an elephant is one bite at a time. I was like, are we eating? Yeah. I was like, I never heard of elephant as a cuisine. Like, you hear about crocodile and frog legs and all that, but I was like, are we eating elephants? Glad to know that we're not.
Some may be eating elephants, but we're not eating elephants.
Right. If you're eating elephants, drop it in the chat. Let us know. But that metaphor of, like, how do you, if the dissertation, if doctoral studies, or building the building, right, is the elephant, how do you eat it? How do you manage it? And I think the wisdom still is relevant, right? Start somewhere. Yeah. Start small, one step at a time, one piece at a time. And so maybe you can't build a building like Rutgers, but can you take steps to really dedicate a space to the clothing closet? Or if you already have a clothing closet, can you, work with your team to expand the offerings? We were talking about this for Trans Awareness Day.
Yeah.
That clothing is so much a part of life. It is a part of identity. It's how we communicate our identity. Like, hello, I have on Virginia Tech today. Why do I have it on? Because that's where I got my doctoral degree. It's my doctoral alma mater. People put on clothing, as part of communicating who they are. And so when you have access to the right clothes that allow you to communicate and share who you are, the result is you feel like you matter. It's a good feeling. It tracks on the belonging. But when you have on the wrong clothes and they do not communicate who you are, or you're limited in your ability of expressing who you are because you don't have access to clothing that is appropriate, then you're left with these feelings of guilt and doubt, and it can deflate one's sense of belonging.
It reminds me of what he kind of shared during the interview, is that we create these buildings and these spaces for students, to build and create and cultivate and nurture them feeling a sense of belonging on our campus. But sometimes we build spaces and places on our campuses that look beautiful, that offer all the support, that ensures it meets students' needs, but the place is cold and it's chilly. It's unwelcoming. People feel unwanted. We said in a piece, probably several times if you read it, is that we can build ramps into the building for students living with a disability. But if that environment, or if the conditions are unwelcoming, students are going to leave. So it's important for us to also consider how can we ensure that students who don't have, you know, the clothes, who don't have food, who don't have housing, who, you know, who are met with all these challenges, feel comfortable,
right,
to come into those spaces without being judged, right? That's part of belonging too. Belonging is not conditional,
right?
It is unconditional. And unconditional belonging means that students can show up just as they are, flaws and all, that students can come to our spaces and be themselves without fear of judgment, fear of harm, or being mocked. That is the real work, right? It is work to build these spaces for students to meet their needs, but also what comes along with that is making sure that students feel safe and secure in those spaces.
That's it. That's the work. That's good work. And we've often said it. Now I'm going to keep saying, because I wanted to be part of our lexicon. You know, to everyone who's out here committed to doing good work and building these spaces for students' sense of belonging, remember this: building spaces of belonging for them can't break us. It's got to be both. We've got to take self-care. We've got to be able to have our own needs met as staff and as faculty, as professionals, as we also commit to meeting students' needs. But when we understand their needs, we use that data and information to really build and use. We have a piece coming out about a blueprint of belonging, following that blueprint to build the spaces of belonging. That is what we call good work. So if you're going to do something, don't be afraid to do something good. And as we like to say, do good work. Until next time, take care.